Well, good morning and welcome back to the front page. I am Dara Star Tucker. You are waking up with us here on the front page with Ms. Jessica Craven. I've been telling you about her all morning. I'm so glad to finally have worked it out to where I can get Jessica on the show. We've had a little bit of a back and forth for quite a while, and she's here in Southern California, so it's been a little bit odd trying to get schedules together, but she is one of the most significant online political commentators right now. She's a voice, she's a beacon, and a voice that a lot of people have been looking to in the last, I would say, couple of years. We've been mutuals for a couple of years now. And a lot of people depend on Jessica Craven to keep them updated on the most essential things that we should be focused on right now. As I like to say, the headlines, they come at a rate where we almost can't keep up with them. And that's the danger of a time like this, is that you kind of don't know what to pay attention to. So a lot of us are a little bit all over the place with exactly what should be a priority. So today we're going to do a bit of a political roundup. We're going to talk some about Prop 50, which we've talked about before, but we're going to get Jessica to comment on that from her point of view. Then we're going to do a political roundup and just kind of let us know what, Jessica, from your point of view, what the most pressing issues are that we should be focused on right now. But I want to tell you a little bit about Miss Jessica Craven before we get into our conversation. Jess Craven is a political content creator, the author of Chop Wood, Carry Water, Daily Actions on Substack, and the co-host of the Practivist Pod. Her goal is to help average Americans become more engaged in the political process and to help elect more progressive lawmakers everywhere. Well, that's a simple bio and a simple goal, Jess, and that's it's honorable too. So I'm so glad you're here with us on the front page this morning. Welcome to you. Thank you so much for being here.
I'm honestly delighted to be here. Thank you for having me, Dara. I'm really happy to be here.
Okay, now we have to get something out of the way before we start our very serious conversation this morning, Jess. That last name, Craven, is there any significance to your last name? I have not heard that name much at all, but I think I've heard it before. And are you connected to the person that I think you're connected to? And how are you connected to them if you are?
Well, let's see. What person could you mean?
I think your dad might be famous, Jess. I think we might have seen some of your dad's films, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, you have. Yeah, my dad was Wes Craven. It's funny, this almost never comes up because I work in politics and there's very little overlap here, but every once in a while someone is like, "Wait a minute."
I know that
my dad was Wes Craven.
And he directed what?
Well, Nightmare on Elm Street, Scream, I think were the two really big ones. Serpent in the Rainbow, Hills Have Eyes, Last House on the Left. You know, he did a lot of horror. He did some non-horror as well, but definitely mostly horror. So
that's just amazing. It's just kind of, now, how did you end up in politics? Your dad was a filmmaker. You grew up in kind of in the business or around show business. How did you end up gravitating towards politics?
Well, I'll tell you what, I didn't grow up around show business because my dad was actually first of all, my parents were divorced. So I lived with my mom in New York and dad lived out here. I visited him on holidays. But also, he was a starving artist, essentially, until I was almost in college.
Oh, wow.
He occasionally had a movie do well, but then he would have long stretches where he didn't have work. So dad was like not famous, not super well known at all until, Nightmare on Elm Street. And I was, I was like 17 when that came out or something. So I didn't grow up with like famous father. I grew up with like starving artist father who became famous when I was more like in adulthood. So
Yeah, but still, it's such a cool connection, and one that I'm like, wait a minute, what is because I will tell you, I worked at Blockbuster Video when I was a teenager. Yeah, when I was like probably 16, 17, and Wes Craven's New Nightmare came out right around the time where I was working at Blockbuster Video, which is why his name is etched in my brain, because people are constantly coming in and asking for Wes Craven's New Nightmare. So That's the reason that your name set off kind of some bells and whistles in my head. But yeah,
And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, I might, is that part seven? I should know this, but I
I
don't.
don't even know.
I think I might have a small part in that. I play the needle nurse in one of his movies. I'm not a very good actor, so I don't ever have a big part. I thought for a second I wanted to be an actress, but that's not my thing. But I do. I am a nurse who's a very mean, scary nurse. I have like a 10-second
Oh,
part.
wow. Okay. I'll have to go and watch that. I grew up as I tell people all the time, I grew up as a very conservative Christian. We were not allowed to watch horror movies at all. So I don't have necessarily the attachment to a lot of those horror films that other people watched as kids. So I never
Oh.
saw Nightmare on Elm Street. I have never actually seen it.
Oh,
But
interesting. My child hasn't seen it either, and I keep saying we should watch it. But I'm going to tell you something else interesting is that my dad grew up in an extremely conservative Christian household, and so did my
really,
mom. They met at Wheaton College, which
really,
is a,
Billy
yes, at
Graham.
Wheaton.
Yeah.
Very, yeah.
Yeah.
And both of them ended up leaving. Neither of them really were convinced, but they were at that school. They met there. They both left the religion right after college, or really during college.
Hmm.
And neither of them ever had anything to do with it again, but they both were raised that way. Very, very
Wow.
intense. Yes. My dad's mother, not to get too digressing with this, but she was quite certain he was going to go to hell because of his movies. So she
Oh,
was,
wow.
mhm.
That's amazing. That is,
Yeah.
I was always amazed to learn who grew up similarly to me. Because yeah,
Yes.
it seems, yeah, you sometimes you just would never know. You would never
Yeah.
know who kind of came out of those really super constrictive worlds. But yeah, fascinating stuff. Would love to talk to
Yeah.
you more about your dad at some point. But we are here to talk about, first of all, Prop 50. Well, Jess, can you first of all tell people where they can find you online? I'm highly recommending that you all follow Jess Craven online because she's going to give you the news in very digestible kind of bites. I mean, she'll do videos that what's the average length of the videos that you do, Jess?
Like 2 to 3 minutes seems to be my average, sometimes a little shorter,
Yeah,
occasionally a little longer. I
she's
try
going to
not to.
give you very digestible little bites of the news and to help you, she's going to contextualize it, help you to understand it. She is a dependable source. You're not going to have misinformation coming from Jess Craven. She's, she checks her sources very carefully and is very trustworthy. So can you let them know where they can find you online, Jess?
Oh, sure. Well, thank you. At Jess Craven 101. So just at Jess Craven 101 on all platforms, actually. That's where you'll find me.
Yeah.
Because I'm trying to teach people the 101s of politics. And so, yeah, that's me.
At Jess Craven 101. Well,
Yeah.
Jess, this Prop 50 thing has been confusing a lot of people. And like I said, we've talked about it here on the front page. We're going to continue to do that
Yeah.
for the rest of the month until voting is over. So early voting has started already. I know because I'm seeing people dropping their ballots in. So if you've got your ballot, you can go ahead and fill that thing out. And I personally would hope that you would fill it out as a yes vote. And Jess, can you help folks understand just from a basic point of view why, in your estimation, yes would be the correct answer to Proposition 50? Because they've been receiving a lot of just deliberately confusing messaging around Prop 50 and what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, no, it is deliberately confusing, but it's actually a pretty straightforward situation. And the thing with Prop 50 is that I like to connect it to things that are more directly relevant to most people. And what I generally will connect it to is healthcare and also holding Donald Trump accountable. And so we have to back up for a second and just remind people that Donald Trump is in a situation right now where he's basically disregarding a lot of norms, laws, the Constitution. I think that's probably a fairly uncontroversial statement to make, right? That he's got no guardrails. Republicans in Congress are not really exercising their power. What they're supposed to be doing in Congress is being an equal branch of government, and they're not, right? So Republicans control the House, they control the Senate, they control the presidency, and arguably they control the Supreme Court, which is not supposed to be partisan, but I think we kind of agree it is. So in this situation where Trump is often acting extra constitutionally, sending federal troops into cities, even though the governors of those states have asked him not to, the ICE raids without due process, things that Americans are really, really upset by. And then also passing legislation that is very, very harmful to working Americans. And really, like this one big bill that they passed, I'm sure your listeners know because we all think about healthcare. It's devastating to our healthcare system. Absolutely gutting
Mm.
in so many ways. And I'm going to connect this to Prop 50. So stay with me for a sec. So all of this is sort of happening because there are no checks on Trump, right? And he's a guy who basically does what he wants anyway, but he's in a situation where there's just nothing stopping him. So what we have been really hoping to do is to flip the House using elections, good old fashioned democracy, flip the House next year so that we can provide some checks and balances in our government so that there is at least one party in control in one chamber who can say, hey, we want to investigate whether it's really okay for ICE to arrest people just because they have brown skin. We want to see whether it's really okay for the power of the purse to be taken away from Congress and given to this Project 2025 guy, Russell Vogt, who's deciding what money he wants to spend and not, which is not legal, right? So in order to do that, we need to win the House next year. So stay with me. I'm guiding you through this whole thing. So Trump knows this. And the Trump administration knows this. He knows that next year in the 2026 midterms, there is a very, 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 very good chance that Republicans will lose control of the House.
Mm.
Why? Because historically, the party in control almost always loses a huge number of seats in the midterms. That's just the way it goes, no matter which party it is. And Trump is very unpopular. Contrary to what he says, if you look at actual polling, his approval ratings are historically the lowest of any president during the history of polling, except for himself in his first term. So his polling is very low. So all of this is to say, and he knows that our side is energized. He knows people are unhappy. He's not been able to fix the economy, so people are unhappy about that. So what he decided to do was to make it so that even if we voted our hearts out, we could not win next year. And the way I try to explain this in the simplest way possible, because gerrymandering, you start talking about gerrymandering and people's eyes glaze over, understandably, because it's kind of boring and hard to understand. So we know that he made a phone call basically to Texas's governor and said, hey, I want you to change the maps in Texas in the middle of the decade, even though that's not something that is ever done unless there's been a lawsuit. Because I want you to find me 5 more seats because I'm worried that we're going to lose the House next year. And if you can gerrymander me a few more seats, we should be able to win. And Greg Abbott said, okay, sure, we'll do that. Now, as I said to my husband, I was explaining this to my husband who doesn't follow politics as closely as I do. It's a little bit like you're running a race with somebody. Let's just say you're running a race and you go up to the starting line and then the person you're running against goes, excuse me, I'm going to just give myself a special dispensation here and moves the starting line up for themselves 10 feet. That's it, right? And then they're like, okay, we can start the race now. And you're like, but you've got this crazy head start. Like, this is no longer a fair race. So what this ballot measure is doing was Gavin Newsom saying, if you guys go ahead and do this in Texas, and only if, we are going to make a change to our state constitution, or we're going to ask the voters if we can, so that we basically move the starting line back up to be next to your starting line. Essentially changing the maps in California to give us a 5-seat advantage, just like Trump just did in Texas. It is temporary because California has independent redistricting typically, so it will return to that in 2030. And it was only, again, contingent on Trump doing this in Texas, which he did, and they did. And so it is basically a way to, we're hearing this phrase a lot, level the playing field, but that's really exactly what it is. So we are basically just saying we want to move that starting line back up so where we're even with Republicans so we can run a race and have just a fair shot at winning the House next year. We're not we're not cheating. We're not asking for special favors. We are asking for a level playing field. And this is the only way we know to get it. California was the only state where we could really find 5 seats. And so that is what you are being asked is, do you want to do this mid-decade redistricting in California because Trump did it in Texas to level that starting line back up? Or do you want to let Republicans kind of cheat and we take the high road and don't do the same and then lose the midterms next year? And that's the question.
Well, I want to know. We're talking today with Jess Craven, who is a political commentator. You can find her online at Jess Craven 101. Is that correct, Jess?
Jess Craven 101. Yep.
Jess Craven 101 on Instagram. She is on TikTok. She's on all of the platforms. And you can find more about her there. Follow her so that you can understand these issues little bit by little bit. She gives it to you in very digestible form. So I'm highly, highly, highly suggesting that you follow Jess Craven 101 online to understand these issues better. Now, Jess, I'm hearing that there are also other states outside of Texas. So obviously, Texas, California, these are huge states capable of having a huge impact on national elections. But there are also other states like Missouri and Ohio and other majority Republican states that have these Republican legislatures that can draw these maps, redraw these maps, who are also trying to go and find one seat here, two seats there. Is California redistricting 5 seats in order to counter what Texas is doing? Is that going to be enough? Are there other states that are now throwing their hat into the ring and saying, "Hey, we want to redistrict too and find more Republican seats"?
Well, I think that we have, there are other seats like Maryland and Illinois have sort of, they've talked about it. It's unclear whether they're going to actually move forward with it. Many people have pressured them to. It's unclear whether they can really find any extra districts in time. I will just say, I think it's so deeply unfortunate that it's come to this. This is not the way it's supposed to work.
Right.
And I think that's the most important thing to underscore over and over again is this is not the way democracy is supposed to be. This is cheating. And so, yes, just today or yesterday, we learned that now Trump has asked North Carolina to find him more districts. It's very disheartening to see him work so hard. But I also want to remind people that will California be enough? It will make a meaningful difference in counteracting what Trump is trying to do. And I don't like to instill hopelessness in people. So I do want to remind you that, so let's say Trump pulls out all the stops. They get as many, redistricting things going as they can. We're looking at them probably picking up, I don't know, 10, maybe 11 more seats. I want to remind everybody that Democrats flipped in 2018. Things were not even this bad at that point. We flipped 41 seats in the House.
Wow.
There have been wave elections. There was a wave election when Obama was president. I believe Republicans flipped 60 seats. So, and I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen. I'm just saying that it's not. We can overcome this. We shouldn't have to overcome it. The president should not get involved in meddling with elections because he's not doing a job that argues for him to maintain power. Do a great job, and then you'll win the midterms because people will be happy with you. But that's not what he's doing.
Yeah.
And so, first, it's very unfortunate that we're here. Second, maybe some other Democratic states will make moves. I'm not clear yet on whether that's happening, but Republican states are much more willing to jump when Donald Trump says jump. How high? And then they jump. So that's, he will probably end up with an advantage in this rigging. That doesn't mean that we are sunk. It means we might have to work a little harder. And winning in California would make a tremendous difference, a huge difference.
Yeah. California is an extremely, extremely crucial and powerful state. It is, as I understand, the 6th largest economy in the world. And
I think we might be the 4th largest economy at this point. We're either 5th or 4th. We are massive.
Wow. That's just amazing. It really is amazing. We're talking today with Jess Craven, who is a political commentator. You can find her online at Jess Craven 101. We are going to take a brief break now and come back with more of our conversation about why both Jess and I are recommending that you vote yes on Prop 50, and that is the redistricting of several districts here in California in order to counter what the Republicans are doing in Texas. It really is a countermeasure just to, as she said, to level the playing field. It's not to gain an unfair advantage, but it's to counter the fact that Republicans are attempting to gain an unfair advantage. So my vote is yes on Prop 50. I know Jess's vote is yes on Prop 50. When we come back, Jess, I want to talk to you about something that is very concerning to me. I'm saying today is a little bit of a political roundup, but I want to talk to you about this issue of these Dominion voting machines, the fact that there were all of these lawsuits about, how supposedly the election was stolen several years ago, 2020, we all went through that. And a lot of it was the Dominion voting machines. We kept hearing about that. Now I'm hearing that Dominion has been taken over by a pro-Trump organization, a conservative organization that they have actually taken over. They have bought the Dominion company. So I want to talk to you about how concerned you are about that, how concerned you feel that we should be about that. We're going to take a brief break and come back. You're listening to Radio Free 102.3 FM KJLH. I'm Dara Star Tucker. This is The Front Page, and we will be back with more of our conversation with Jess Craven right after this.